Hello? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so it's back. Asante bwana. Asante. Asante bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, naambua kiranja wa bunge la Senate ndugu yangu Kang'ata na kanyaga waya la bunge yangu ina Kang'ata, usizime hii kitu. Asante bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, mimi nataka kupinga kabisa hii hoja ya ndugu yangu kiranja wa bunge aliyoileta ya kuweza kufanya amendment ama mabadilisho kidogo katika hii hoja ya ugavi wa pesa. Bwana Spika, sababu za kuipinga hii ni kwamba italeta mtafaruku mkubwa kama huu tulioona leo. Italeta aibu kubwa ndani ya Senate. Italeta aibu kubwa ya kwamba ugavi wa pesa ambalo ni jukumu la Senate imeshindwa kulitekeleza. Ikisema hivyo ni kwa sababu ikiwa tutaahirisha kutengeneza mipango ya ugavi wa pesa kikamilifu na kwamba baada ya miaka miwili sasa tuweze kubakisha hivyo hivyo, alafu baada ya miaka miwili tuje tugeuze murudi tena kwa ile formula ama katika ile mgavi wa hesabu uliokuwa hapo awali ya kwamba mtagandamiza tena kaunti zingine na kaunti zingine zitafaidika. Hii inabainisha ya kwamba ukiwa unasema ya kwamba utaniua leo, basi afadhali uniue sasa hivi kuliko kuniambia leo nitakuacha utaketi, baada ya miaka miwili ndio nitakuua. Kama ni kuniua utaniua. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, uahirishaji wa hii ugavi wa pesa hizi ni kwamba utakuwa sawa na mwaka ujao utakuwa sawa, lakini baada ya miaka miwili tutarudi pale pale tulipokuwa. Kama hivi sasa tuko na jukumu kama bunge la Senate na kwamba tunaweza kurekebisha. Kwa mara nyingi tumekuwa tukienda kila mahali katika nchi hii. Nimekuwa kwa ndugu yangu Cherargei na nilifurahi na Wanandi kule. Nimekuwa katika sehemu mbalimbali. Nataka ni kwa ndugu yangu Gideon nikajue ninaketi pale, baada ya miaka miwili bado mimi kaunti yangu ama kaunti zetu zote katika Kenya 47 zinapata mgao wake kisawa sawa. Kusiwe na mtafaruku kama huu ambao tunaoona sasa. Tunasema ya kwamba Bwana Spika, huu ugavi wa pesa katika hii formula, japokuwa amesema utakuwa hautaathiri kaunti yoyote kwa miaka miwili, lakini hatari iliyoko ni kwamba sisi tunaupinga, kwa sababu utakuja tena baada ya miaka miwili utarejesha pale pale ambapo tulikuwa. Bwana Spika, katika taratibu tunazoona hivi sasa ni aibu katika bunge letu la Senate, na halijatendeka namna hii katika miaka 8 nimewahi kuwa ndani ya hili bunge, kuona ya kwamba kwa mara ya kwanza katika historia ya nchi yetu ya Kenya tunataka kuigawanya hii Kenya. Kenya ni nchi moja ambao sote sisi ni wa Kenya, lakini huu mwenendo ambao unataka kufanywa baada ya miaka miwili, wengine kama sisi tutaanza kubeba bendera tukisema ya kwamba pwani si Kenya. Na nikisema hivyo kwamba pwani si Kenya ni kwa sababu zake zinajulikana. Sehemu za pwani zimelaliwa sana. Sehemu za ndugu zetu ambao wanatoka katika northeastern zimelaliwa sana. Sehemu za Wamasai zimelaliwa sana. Sehemu za Ukambani zimelaliwa sana kwa ugavi wa pesa. Kuanzia uhuru patikane, wameahidiwa, tumeahidiwa, kila mtu ameahidiwa. Na hivi sasa tunaelekea pale pale ya kwamba nyinyi ndugu zetu pigeni tiki sasa, tutawapa miaka miwili tu mfaidike kidogo kama wa Kenya, baada ya miaka 5 hamko Kenya. Bwana Spika, ni lazima tutafakari swala kama hili la uteti katika Kenya. Hili itaweza kupasua hii nchi mara mbili. Tunataka Kenya yetu iwe nchi moja. Kwa hiyo hili swala la miaka miwili ya kwamba hii tutaipitisha kama ugavi wa pesa temporary, ni vile vile ndugu zangu walivyosema, wewe unaugua kansa ama wewe unaugua maradhi fulani, alafu unajipata ya kwamba badala ya kutumia zile dawa ama shindano inayotakikana kutibu ule ugonjwa, unaona ya kwamba wewe unapewa Panadol, alafu ile pain inakuwako kidogo inapungua, alafu baadaye inarudi baada ya siku 2, utakuwa hujafanya kitu. Kwa hiyo hii tukiahirisha, tukisema ya kwamba baada ya miaka miwili tutarudi pale pale tena, hatujatibu ule ugonjwa. Kwa hiyo sisi tunasema ya kwamba ni lazima, ikiwa kama tutatibu ugonjwa, ni lazima ugonjwa tuutibu na hesabu ama taratibu za hesabu ambazo kila kaunti katika Kenya zote 47, sio sasa, si mwaka ujao, si baada ya mwaka ujao, zitafaidika. Na kila mtu hapa hakuja ya kwamba aje apigie mwingine makofi, wengine wamepata, wengine wamekosa. Hapana. Alivyosema yeye ni kwamba kila mtu atakwenda zake nyumbani ikiwa ugavi wa pesa hizi zitakuwa ziko sawa sawa. Na hiyo ndio kikamilifu kama sote tuko wa Kenya. Hatutaki kugawa baada ya miaka miwili tuanze kurudi pale pale tena, na kuanza kugombana na kuleta fujo na kuleta ghasia, kuleta aibu ndani ya bunge la Senate kama vile tunavyoona hivi sasa. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I totally oppose this motion and also the report of the committee. Mr. Speaker, the reason being is that we are being taken to the dark days of this country, which we are not going to accept. Number two, Mr. Speaker, there is no difference between the motion by the committee and the motion by Senator Kangata. So let us not lie to each other. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, what was brought by the committee was illegal because they threw away the formula by CRA in itself. Mr. Speaker, what is on the table for us today as the counties that are affected, it's marginalization versus 1 man, 1 shilling. Marginalization versus BBI. Marginalization versus population. So, Mr. Speaker, how do we feel as counties that have been marginalized over the years? Mr. Speaker, I cannot append my signature on something that will affect my county, my children, in a history of this country. Because if I allow this formula to work for 2 years, if I leave Senate, what will happen to my county? That county will curse my children, they will curse me until I die. Or even when I die, I'll be cursed. I cannot allow that to happen. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow people to sit in Nairobi and make a decision for people who are living in my county, which is 1,000 kilometers from here, and they don't understand the dynamics of those counties. Mr. Speaker, today I am getting, as Isiolo County, 4.2 billion. The formula is taking away 869 million, which is almost 1 billion. Mr. Speaker, clearly I'm being told, put a signature here, where I'm not going to get development in my county for 5 years, which I'm not going to accept, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think people need to understand what we go through. Because when you reduce the land and you give money to population, and I think people should understand today in those counties, our mothers are traveling 100 kilometers to look for water. When we append signature on this formula, we are saying our mothers should die for the next 5 years. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow this. Mr. Speaker, today the country is watching who are going to be with the marginalized counties and who are actually punishing those counties and bring back the dark days
Switch
of
off
this
your
country.
mics. Switch off the other mics, please.
Mr. Speaker, I am actually opposing this motion because when we are being told BBI is proposing 35% revenue increase, where is it? Mr. Speaker, we are being told you either pass the formula or BBI will collapse. We don't care, let BBI collapse. Because money is everything to us. We have been marginalized over the years, but we cannot sit here and be lied to that we are going to pass this formula for 2 years, then after 2 years we are going to change. What will happen to those senators who will come in that time? Who knows whether you are going to be there or not? Because we have a history where people sat and actually reduced the responsibility of the Senate in the previous parliaments. When they came to the Senate, they regretted. And the same thing will happen if you come back to this house and find the formula that you have actually appended your signature when you are in this Senate. Mr. Speaker, I am not going to accept this because Look at the mother who is in Kapsabet, and look at the mother who is in Sericho, where she travels 100 kilometers to get service delivery. People need to understand all that when they are making this kind of decision. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to waste a lot of time, but I'm saying we need to understand the dynamics of this country. And I'm actually opposing this formula, both the formula and the committee's report. I thank you.
Senator Chila yako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this proposed amendment. Mr. Speaker, from the tone of members, you will see how distant apart we are. There is a group proposing one extreme, another group proposing another extreme, yet we must make one decision. Mr. Speaker, in a democratic process, the principles of negotiations and compromise are a must. If you look at the making of the American Constitution, there was a compromise called the Sherman Compromise or the Connecticut Compromise. In fact, they had disagreed completely and they wouldn't have a constitution. On the 29th of May, 1867, when it was very hot, it was in summer. You know, summers are there in May. There were mosquitoes, there were flies that were biting people. They reached a compromise between the interest of large counties or large states and small states, and they have a constitution to date. It was a difficult compromise, as difficult as the one we are having today. We may not believe in miracles, but we must be optimistic. 2 years is a long time, and if you are not a prophet of doom, this country is not winding up. I believe that the economy will grow, and what will be shared will be bigger. I believe that during that time, there will be presidential candidates who will be talking to us and addressing these issues to specific counties. Those candidates will come to your region and tell you how they want to fix it. But we are stuck with this decision as a Senate. We must solve it. I am not a presidential candidate. I do not want to recede to Migori County and say that since I'm benefiting, I'm not interested in Narok. And I wouldn't want Narok to recede to Narok and say, since they are losing, they are not interested in Migori. The point here is, we as a Senate are giving opportunity for a mission. It's like a serious chronic disease, but we are giving 2 years, hoping that a political miracle will happen and there'll be more money to feed and share among all the needy counties. And we all needy. We all needy. Muranga is needy. I saw food being distributed to the poor. I didn't know there were poor people in Muranga. In Migori, we are extremely poor. But we do not want for these 2 years that I know I have mandate here to make Narok, Makueni, Kitui, Turkana poor. So the 2 years that are being proposed is what Senate can give, because that is what we can give. And when we give it like this one, it is unfortunate that some people may claim that we are selfish. We cannot be selfish when we in Migori are saying we are not taking a cent from you. When this formula, whichever formula you apply, if you apply it immediately, CRA or the committee formula that is based on CRA, somebody will lose. But we are saying, hold on, we do not want you to lose because I'm here. That is what we can give a Senate. And I think adopt the approach that we can dialogue with the national government to allocate more money. If it is allocated to 350 million, or if by some miracle BBI that some people do not like allocates more money, then we'll not be talking the way we are talking. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to support this amendment, and I am supporting this amendment knowing that right here in Africa, in South Africa, there is a principle called sharing in, or it's called facing in implementation. Every so often, South Africa has to come up with revenue sharing formula here in Africa. And their revenue sharing formula that is based on data and on the advice of a constitutional entity is phased in for 3 years. The first year, 30% of the proposed formula is implemented. The second year, it is 60%. The third year is the remaining 30%. That is how it is done in South Africa. So what we are debating here is not something that is new. It is something that works in diverse nations like South Africa. It is something that should also work here. And I am sure there are two interests that are prevailing and are irreducible in this house. Everybody wants to gain money. Nobody wants to lose money. Those are the two principles. And going by whatever formula, even if we were to postpone this remission to 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever formula you bring will cause more suffering. So I want to conclude by saying that I appreciate the distance apart that we are, but we must come to one decision, and that decision involves negotiations and compromise, however difficult. The compromise that is not hurting anybody is that you are not going back to your county this year and next year with less money that your county has been getting, and that you must continue praying and working at it that more money will come. And believe, you are working as a nation, you are talking about the economy. The economy will grow. And if it does grow, then we will be talking a different subject. And when we are talking a different subject, we will all happily talk about it. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to support the amendment that has been introduced by my brother and friend, Senator Kangata.
Senator Abdullahi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand to vehemently oppose this amendment, Mr. Speaker. This amendment is no different from the original motion. It is the same, the so-called square root, which does not exist anywhere in the world, Mr. Speaker, sir. We are supposed to talk of equality, equity, equitable society, and equitable development. But here, what we are talking about is some people are more equal than others. This is the animal farm, Mr. Speaker. Let's say the truth the way it is. In regions which have suffered tremendously from independence to date, especially the so-called marginalized regions, have suffered enough, Mr. Speaker. We are being marginalized the way the map shows. The sessional paper number 10 of 1965 is the way this formula is dividing this country, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, the principal finance system, you know, the principles of public finance, Article 201(b)(3) states, expenditure shall promote the equitable development of the country, including by making special provisions for marginalized groups and areas, Mr. Speaker. Are we thinking of even that? Everybody who talks here and who is talking for this area are from the developed regions, where they have had everything they have the roads, they have health facilities, they have water. Where I come from, there's no water, there's no roads, there's no health, and still I'm being told you're getting more money. What money? When there's oil in Turkana, the people run to that place and say, bring that oil here to the central government. But when it comes to revenue sharing, Turkana does not, you don't need to give them anything. When you talk of the windmill, the wind generation in Marsabit, it is brought up to Suswa. The people of Marsabit don't benefit. But when it comes to resource, you are told you don't deserve anything. When we get oil in Wajir, it will be the same thing. If the coal in Kitui was used, it is the same thing. What is this thing about the center? And these ones who have always have it, we will not accept that. This is not right, it is not fair, it's not acceptable. We cannot be allowed to be pushed to the periphery every time. What is 316 billion? It is nothing. When you get billions and trillions from the national government, and you still talk about these areas. Mr. Speaker, sir, these 2 years is nothing. It is a waste of time. As Senator from Makueni said, you want to kill us, the knife is there. Do it. Stop talking other politics here. Stop talking about this or that. We have had enough. We are tired.
Let's consult in low tones, Senator.
We are tired. We will not keep quiet throughout our lives. to be threatened, to be told you are being fed, that you come from areas with nothing, that there are only trees there. Come on. If you remove those areas or the so-called landmass, you don't want it, how will the map of Kenya look like? Show us the map of Kenya. It will be, if these people who say they have all the numbers and they don't need these areas, then they are free to do whatever they want. Give us federalism, release us if you so wish. But this is not what we will accept. This is not what we were envisaging when we were talking of Kenya as one. I'm wearing this tie today, Mr. Speaker. This is the flag of Kenya. And nobody can intimidate me. Nobody can tell me that you don't produce this or you don't produce that. The money which everybody is trying to brag about comes from Nairobi. 60% comes from Nairobi. 30% comes from Isli. Okay? And then you are told you don't produce anything. 2 years down the road, it is not going to help us. Even whether it's 2 years, whether it is 5 years, I oppose it, and I oppose it to the last bit of my breath. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Musuruve, then from the other side, Senator Ndwiga.
Help me. Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that I support the amendments by Senator Kangata. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, the amendments come in to show that he's flexible, and a true leader needs to be flexible but not rigid. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that, can I be heard? Am I heard? Am I on record? And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that the amendments by Senator Kangata shows that he's accommodating, and according to these amendments, Honorable Speaker, no county should lose at all. And as a Senate, we have to ensure that no county loses in any way. And I want to say also, Honorable Speaker, that most counties have already made their budgets and they have expectations. So all of a sudden, if a county gets less money, the counties will be actually confused. So there's need to ensure that no county actually loses. And also this is a moment to think about the yonder years, so that if there are any amendments to be done on the budget, it should be well thought and all that. But it's a learning point, Honorable Speaker. So I support that the status quo should remain, money should go to counties, and there's need also to have a conversation so that more money is given to counties. And even when more money is given to counties, then there has to be a way in which some years to come, there has to be a way in which a conversation is made so that no county loses at all. It has to be a win-win situation. So I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that in being visionary leaders, I support Senator Kangata's amendments, and I want to say that no county should lose on this, because development has to be across the board in the 47 counties. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Hello? You can hear me? Okay. They are not working.
Oh,
Nobody has.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Musuruve, you are through.
Was that on record?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I started to support the amendment brought about by Senator Kagata. And Mr. Speaker, it's a most unfortunate day today that we are in a country which is a republic. And Mr. Speaker, it is a bit mind-boggling how we reached here. Mr. Speaker, the decision being made today is being made because a decision has to be made. We have been talking. And Mr. Speaker, this matter has been looked left, right, and there are reasons this way, that way. But Mr. Speaker, I want to say, let us not also forget that the essence of democracy is one man, one vote. That is the basis of democracy. From the very beginning, when man decided that there would be no king, but people would decide how they will be governed, it was decided it will be done on the basis of man and no other way. And Mr. Speaker, what we are seeing and the sentiments we are expressing are all over the world to see. In America, Mr. Speaker, Alaska is 7 times California. But California has 52 college votes. Alaska gets 2. On what basis? Because Alaska has hardly any people there. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, under the issue of poverty, saying that some areas are rich, some areas are poor. Mr. Speaker, there is so much poverty here in Kiambu. There is so much poverty here in Nairobi. There is so much poverty in Nyeri, villages where people cannot afford a meal. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the riches being talked are very unfortunate when those citizens in those areas are struggling themselves to survive today, to have even a meal on their desk. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, what the decision that has been made at the parameters used like agriculture, health, and population, surely nobody can say that they have no basis in life. That is a basis of whatever happens. And Mr. Speaker, we can be in this house and decide to divide this country or unite this country. I would urge all of us to tone down and try to speak in a way to unite this country. And today, there is this feeling and a picture being painted, which I want today on this floor to actually deny and demonstrate is not true. Look at this formula today. The money coming to this so-called Mount Kenya region is not the most. In fact, most of the money that is being reduced from other counties is going to the north left, to western, and actually to Nyanza. Very little is coming to Mount Kenya. Nyeri itself, where I come from, is gaining something less than 300 million. Therefore, the notion that this is being done by a certain clique of people, Mr. Speaker, is not right, and it should actually not be being propelled by leaders who believe in the national unity of this country. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, as we sit in this house, we are leaders, we are representatives. You can see how eager we are to look for money for our counties. Well and good. But gentlemen, sit back and ask yourself, of this money we are fighting so hard, how much of it are we aware how it is used? Mr. Speaker, we are told this country as Kenya is losing that percent all about nationally to corruption. How much in the countries is being lost to corruption? Maybe it's up to 80%.
What's the point of order, Senator? Yes, Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't want to interrupt my brother Senator Maina, but looking at the time,
Take your seat, Senator
kindly,
Maina.
on a point of order, Engineer Maina, can you? Mr. Speaker, my point of order concerns that looking at the time, considering
Order, Senator Maina, the two of you cannot be on the floor.
Mr. Speaker, looking at the curfew that was issued by the President that no mheshimiwa, no one should be spared, it should be enforced. Mr. Speaker, I request that you provide appropriate guidelines on how we should proceed, considering it's 9 p.m., almost 9 p.m. with the curfew time, or you have talked to the IG of police so that some of us might not be harassed when we are going home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I will give guidance on that. Can you conclude? Let me consult.
Mr. Speaker, I think the rule should apply from the speaker who is coming, but I don't intend to continue talking here forever. Mr. Speaker, I intended to conclude my appeal to this House is, this matter is very emotive, but for heaven's sake, let's not try to make statements here that are going to divide this country. Let's try to do as much as we can, whatever language we use, try to unite this country. I would appeal that that be actually what we would have done. But going back to where I was saying that it is high time we realized the usage of the money is more important than thinking that pumping and pumping more money, it is the solution to poverty. No. You can be poor with 10 billion or with 1 billion if we are mismanaging. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is high time we strengthened oversight. This House is high time it had some money to do proper oversight. So the money we are clamoring here for, one can be able to say it has gone to the service of Wajiko in this way and this way. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, as we continue gunning for this money, and we should be gunning for it, let us ask ourselves how that this House will end up having enough resources to actually follow that money and see that it is utilized properly, including strengthening the office of the Attorney General, ensuring it has enough money so that they can open enough offices in every county and be working in conjunction with the senators. That could be a better solution to giving service to our people and alleviating poverty than thinking there is
What's the point of order, Senator?
more and more money.
There's a point of order. There's a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I tell you to conclude.
Let him conclude. Let him conclude.
Mr. Speaker, has he concluded? That's fine.
Okay. Honorable Senators, I'll seek your intelligence because, you know, this is just an amendment. We are still yet to come back to the motion and other amendments. So I'll invite the leader of minority and leader of majority just to say something, then we take a vote.
Okay. I want to really speak from my heart. And in speaking from my heart, I was always told that in science, when you want to reach an objective, like you want to go to Mars and you want to go to the moon, you know the objective of where you want to go, then you can synchronize the pathway to where you want to go. I am totally disappointed today because we don't know where we're going. And I want to look at these figures seriously to think whether the point we're trying to make, we are making it. Mr. Speaker, there used to be a ruler in Uganda called Idi Amin. Idi Amin was given MiG planes from the Soviet Union. And when he got those MiG planes, he thought he was so powerful. And he decided to attack Tanzania because he had those many MiGs. Nyerere was a very civil, very humble leader. Amin was a field marshal, he was not even a general. And he thought with these MiGs, he could attack Tanzania and succeed. Lo and behold, when it counted, Amin was on the run. Amin on the run. I've been pleading with members I could talk to that let us be smart, like Justice Odunga says, let's be like a guided missile. Look at what you want to achieve before we engage in the debate. And I want to point at the figures as they are in relation to this motion that has been put before us. Seriously, can we discount the fact that the figures, the way they show, and I'm looking at them sequentially, the CRA, and I'm looking at the committee, and I'm looking at the places where we are told they have big populations, beginning with Bungoma. I can tell you if population was the basis upon which we were using the parameter, Bungoma is not getting what it deserved if you are using population. And the senator for Bungoma has decided that is irrespective of the question of population, he wants a middle way, middle ground. People who want peace must look for the middle ground. If you look at what Kiambu is getting, looking at the figures, population, they're not getting what they deserve, including Nairobi. Nairobi is not getting what they deserve. And Senator Sakaja, I support your patriotism, because if it was on population, we'd not be talking today. And Nairobi has poverty. I mean, you can go to Mandera and find somebody with a toilet where to go. But in Nairobi, there are people who don't have toilets, where to go. So I want us to be frank with each other. And I was trying to offer a way out when I was asking for that adjournment. Look at what this means, the figures. Kitui was going to lose 1 billion. Kitui was going to lose 1 billion. Not tomorrow, not the next financial year. It was going to lose it now. Through Senator Kangata's amendment, Kitui for 3 years is not going to lose that 1 billion. That's the fact. They are not going to lose that 1 billion. Look at Wajir. And I speak for Wajir more than even the senator for Wajir. I've been there to talk about the people who are murdered and persecuted in Wajir. When I was going there, I was arrested. I slept in a cell in Wajir, talking about the people who have been killed through violence by the police and by the military. Now, if you look at Wajir, Wajir was going to lose 2 billion shillings, not tomorrow, now. And through Senator Kangata's motion, amendment, they are not going to lose 2 billion now. They are not going to lose 2 billion next year. In the third year, they're not going to lose 2 billion. Compared to Siaya, what do I get in Siaya? It is not in terms of billions. Siaya does not talk in terms of billions. Let us be serious. In Siaya, we don't talk about billions. We are talking about 100 million, 10 million. Look at some of the counties. Even you talk about Lamu, they are talking about 100 million. We have lost our minds with respect. We have lost our minds. And I was trying to look for a way forward where we can sit together as a people to decide where we go. Now, Mr. Speaker, I can go through these figures. You look at Machakos. Machakos was going to lose, and you know Machakos is one of the growth centers. Machakos is one of the growth centers. A lot of development that is taking place in this republic is in Machakos. If you drive on this road, on Mombasa Road, before you get to the airport, you're already in Machakos. Machakos was going to not to lose, but it was getting a minimal increase, which does not reflect what is happening in that county of Machakos. But the senator for Machakos, because of what Kitui and Makwenya are losing, he said, I'm dying with my brothers. And the governor had the audacity to go out and say that Machakos, the senator, has given away more than $1 billion. He's using it as a campaign strategy. So me today, Senator Murkomen, I am proud of you because you can stand up. You can stand up. A lot of people cannot stand up because you said, I am gaining, but in this one I'm not going to support. I'm not going to support. Me and say I am gaining, but I'm saying I'm not going to support because Kenya is one nation. Look at the preamble of the Constitution of Kenya is saying we are one indivisible nation. We are one indivisible nation. Now, when we are looking at this thing you are trying to do here, we are trying to make Kenya counties. We are trying to make Kenya tribes. The other day I was being told about, which tribes are gaining and which tribes are losing. I think, really, Mr. Speaker, I want to say this from the bottom of my heart. Some people, and Kibaki, there's no leader, actually, one of the leaders I admire in this country is Senator Kibaki. Senator Kibaki would talk, but at the end of the day, when he was looking at the gallery, President Kibaki, he looked at the gallery and begin to talk to the nation from the gallery. And the thing that President Kibaki did, probably no other president will be able to do it. I am not ashamed of saying that. I am advising the current president to be more accessible, for us to be enabled us to solve these problems. We would not have been here if he was more accessible. I'm telling you without being afraid. I'm not saying it for me. I'm saying it for the country. But on this one, I agree with you. I know where Senator Mutola, I respect you, my son. I really respect you. But on this one, let us be wise. Let us be wise. Senator Wetangula came with something which was fantastic. We should have listened to it. And we rubbished it. And we're in this situation now. Now I was being called out here to say that we should have another adjournment. I should ask senators to disappear because they can see how the vote is coming now. They can see it. They can see it. The moment has come. The moment has come. And when we want to count votes now, the chest thumping will stop because it's a count. But I want to conclude by saying I was with Senator Haji this morning because I respect him. This morning, to find out what is the best way forward. So this young man called Senator Kangata, he was my student. He learned his politics through me. He has said things that I can't agree with. He has annoyed me in the last 1 month. But today he came to me, I'm biting the bullet. I want a middle ground. And for that I respect you, Kangata, because for what you've said, nobody will believe you would take this position. So let me not make it long. I support this amendment. Because in this amendment, nobody is losing. And if anybody is losing, I want him to stand up and show me where he's losing. And he's not losing this year. He's not losing next year. He's not losing in the 3rd year. Why are you messing up by misleading people? Nobody is losing.
Nobody should lose.
And nobody should lose. I respect Senator Sakaja, but I have been through this morning simulations. You know, let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, these parameters, they are not mathematical absolutes. These parameters, when we talk about a parameter on health, is not on the basis that it's a mathematical absolute. It's a variable. Yeah, so Senator Sakaja can change his variable, somebody else can change his variable, and you end up with a different result. I want to convince the people from the coast, I am with you, I'm dying with you, you are losing no cent. The people from Mandera, you are losing no cent. And finally, tell Governor Mutua, there's nobody as patriotic as Senator Kabaka. Kabaka, Machakos is not losing any money. For him to come and tell the country, and in Machakos, that Machakos is losing any money. Machakos is not losing a coin. And I used to practice in Machakos as a lawyer. So today, let us be brave and pass the amendment by Senator Irungu Kangata. You have annoyed me, but you have now come back to life. So you are my true trainee. I support.
Leader of majority.
Allow me, Speaker, allow me to, before, Speaker.
Order, senators, let us consult in low tones.
Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, I will donate 2 of my minutes to Senator Matangi, and then I can do the rest in a very short time. Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to appreciate the Majority Leader for donating the 2 minutes to me. Mr. Speaker, I will just make very few comments. First, I want to appreciate all the comments that have been made by my colleagues, and especially the last comments that have been made by the Senate Minority Leader, Mr. Speaker. As one of the few people who was engaged and as a member of the Finance Committee, I sat through many meetings and through several sessions, Mr. Speaker, trying to find a middle ground. But even before I speak about that, Mr. Speaker, in my 2 minutes, let me first acknowledge and say to the country, because every citizen has been watching us, and I'm sure there are several questions in people's minds as to why the Senate has taken this long. And we were almost looking to the eyes of the public as though we are either indecisive, as though we are too political, or as though we are too divided, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say that indeed it's a sign of health in the Senate in showing the passion that each senator has, no matter what position they took, Mr. Speaker, in ensuring that they can secure the interests of each of the people who elected them here. And I know, Mr. Speaker, in that respect, I would probably only quote what Abraham Lincoln said sometimes, that in this process, although passion may have strained, it should not break the bond of our friendship, Mr. Speaker. And I will be appealing to most of my colleagues, whichever way we look at it, Mr. Speaker, whether you're looking at yourself as a gainer or as a loser, Mr. Speaker, but I take the position that we have no losers, neither do we have gainers, Mr. Speaker. In the entire cycle from the first time when I was elected into the Senate in 2013 up to today, Mr. Speaker, the simulations of the first formula in 2012, the second one in 2016, when all those parameters are applied, capital has flown from different counties, Mr. Speaker. Scenarios have changed in different counties, Mr. Speaker. At no one time have we, as a Senate, taken a position that is so divisive that we would look like we are a house that's about to crumble. And I want to appeal to my colleagues, now that we have the amendment by Senator Kangata, which seeks to give us a middle ground, Mr. Speaker, and in acknowledging, indeed, that there is no money that anyone can argue, even if this money was doubled.
Let's consult in low tones.
Mr. Speaker, even if the amount that we are dividing, 316 billion was divided, it is still not enough to take care of counties and the needs of the Kenyans in every of the 47 counties, Mr. Speaker. My appeal, as I support this amendment, would be, Mr. Speaker, that in accepting and introducing this amendment, Mr. Speaker, that we are able, first, as a House, to find a way forward together, Mr. Speaker. And secondly, to ensure that we can fight the battles of tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, we all recognize that if we had gotten what the Senate had unanimously decided should be the amount that has been given to counties, we would not be where we are. This Senate
Let's consult in low tones. Order senators.
This Senate had asked family for 350 billion. If we had gotten 350 billion, Mr. Speaker, from national government, today, everybody would have been smiling. But even that 350 billion would not have been enough, Mr. Speaker. And I want to conclude, because I know my 2 minutes are over, by saying and urging my colleagues that yes, we have been through what we have been through, that indeed Senator Mutula Kilonzo and all the other senators who have spoken here, sentimentally and strongly, because they feel their counties are losing. If we can forge a way together forward, first acknowledging that yes, there has been middle ground that has been built in those 2 years of moratorium, Mr. Speaker, we will find a way to ensure that in whichever funds are available, either the equalization fund, either any other amount, Mr. Speaker, that will be available, that we will be able to ensure that we get the monies that are right. So let's ensure that we are together and we can be able to move our counties together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Leader of Majority.
Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to thank all the members who have spoken to this amendment. Mr. Speaker, this day I want to use the opportunity that I have to mourn a great man that was the President of Tanzania, President Mkapa. Speaker, I know that I was actually meant to attend the funeral of President Mkapa, and I will just use this opportunity to send our condolences to the family and to the nation of Tanzania. Because, Mr. Speaker, Watangula and I, Senator Watangula and I and Senator Rengo, know the man very well. We worked to bring the peace to this country. Mr. Speaker, let me also use this opportunity to disabuse this House of the kind of terminologies that we have used, or words that we've used during the past few weeks. And one of the prominent expressions the Speaker used were losers and winners. And the Speaker, truly enough, the irony of this division of revenue, the irony, Mr. Speaker, is that what you call losers were actually winners. What you call winners were actually losers. And Mr. Speaker, if, for example, I give you the example of West Pokot County. Either two, Mr. Speaker, West Pokot has never crossed the 5 billion mark. And so when West Pokot gains something, we are called gainers. But even with that gain, Mr. Speaker, West Pokot has never reached where the losers are in terms of how much they get. And so, Mr. Speaker, I think there is something that we need all to agree, that this is where we come together and say, how do we help those who have been low to come up, and those who have been extremely high to give up something? That would be the formula that will divide the revenue, Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, the politicization of this whole formula around the world, of people claiming they're being marginalized, others saying we are going to suffer this or that, has been cured, Mr. Speaker, by this amendment. This amendment cures that expression, that language of loss and gain. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if we were to speak candidly to each other, this amendment profits the so-called losers more than the gainers. In fact, Mr. Speaker, this amendment keeps the so-called gainers on hold, while the so-called losers gain. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the people who claim to be losers, or the counties that claim to be losers, should support this amendment. This amendment is good for them. So for the next 2 years, Mr. Speaker, financial years, there is nobody saying I'm getting less than what we are getting right now. And so without necessarily, Mr. Speaker, having to express myself in more words than these, I want to say that we support this amendment, and I want to appeal to you all to support this amendment, to bring ourselves to a place where we can say the truth about what you are getting. And sometimes it's a mixture. There are people, of course, that I sympathize with, Mr. Speaker, who are, for example, our friends from Isiolo, who are already getting very low. And so they are really like losers. I just want us to express ourselves that if we had given ourselves a bit of time, if we had not begun to politicize this matter, we might have moved to a place where we are all in agreement, a place where we could say we have reached a middle ground. But because of the positions we have taken, Mr. Speaker,
Let's consult in low tones, Senators.
because of the positions we have taken, this has now come to a vote. And so I want to appeal to the delegations that we vote to support the Kangata amendment. It's a very reasonable amendment. It is meant to benefit those who are supposed to be losers by keeping them and the same amount of money that they were getting before. And it's holding those who are supposed to gain, but they understand. The people who are supposed to gain, Mr. Speaker, are very magnanimous people. And I want to congratulate them and ask now for your vote, for all of you. Let's vote together on this one. Let's get done with, and then there will be no need to bring any further amendments. We will just finish and go home. Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Okay, yes, go. Okay, order, Senators. Take your seat. I'm going to put the question. Then after that, we are going to vote by division because it's a matter touching on counties. And since the system is down, we'll use a roll call. I put the question, which is that paragraph 26, paragraph 26 of the report be amended by deleting the phrase commencement financial year 2021-2022 appearing on page 16 of the report, and B, insertion of the following new paragraph immediately after paragraph 26 of the report. 27A, the proposed third basis criteria for allocating among the counties the share of national revenue for financial years 2020-2021 to 2024-2025 shall commence in the financial year 2022-2023. B, despite subparagraph A, the criteria applied to allocate among the counties the share of national revenue for the financial year 2019-2020 shall continue to apply until the commencement of the criteria under subparagraph A. So now I order the bell to be rung for 1 minute. 1 minute. Crowding here, can you? So the roll call, you'll come and sign. Yeah, you are called, you come and sign. Yeah. Okay. Okay, take your seats. We want to start the voting. These are delegations. Clerk, let's proceed.
Adan Dulo Fatma.
Order. Speak up, clerk. Let's listen. We are voting, eh? Senators, order. The whip, majority whip, please, you should be. Okay, we are voting. Listen, we are doing a roll call. Okay, senators, please.
Adan Dulo Fatma.
Sign your name.
Ali Abdullahi Ibrahim.
I say no.
But also sign so that we come to check here.
Signing, and I'm signing no.
Boy Issa Juma. Followed by Cherar K. Samson Kiprotich.
I vote no.
No. I don't have a pen.
Now and leave it there. Cherar K.
Continue, Cherar K.
Samson Kiprotich.
I vote emphatically yes.
Cheruyot Aaron Kipkirui.
Senator Maina, you have not been called yet. They have not called you yet. But there is no confusion. Listen to what the clerk is reading out. Senators.
I vote yes.
Senator Haji Mohamed Yusuf.
On behalf of my delegation, I vote no.
Senator Hargura Godana.
Marsabit delegation votes no.
Senator Himana Malaki Charles Ekal.
Turkana delegation votes no.
Kabaka Boniface Mutinda.
I
I vote no.
Kajwang Moses Otieno.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Kamar Margaret Jepkoech. Kamar Margaret Jepkoech. Kangata Irungu.
Yes, I vote yes.
Kibiru Charles Rubenson.
I vote yes.
Kanuri George.
Mr. Speaker, for Vihiga, it's an emphatic no.
Kihika Susan Wakarura.
I, Susan Wakarura Kihika, votes no. Yes.
Kimani wa Matangi Paul.
Mr. Speaker, I, Kimanua Matangi, representing the people of Kiambu, vote yes.
Kindiki Kithure.
Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of Tharaka Nithi County and for the sake of one united Kenya, I vote no.
Kirinyaga Ephraim Mwagi. Kirinyaga Ephraim Mwagi Maina. Langat Christopher Andrew.
On behalf of Nyeri and Kenya, I vote yes.
On behalf of Bomet delegation, Dr. Christopher Langat vote yes.
Lelegwe Lutembesi.
On behalf of the Samburu County delegation, I vote no.
Linturi Franklin Mithika. As the spokesperson of the Mirus, I vote yes.
Loitiptip Anwar.
I, Anwar Loitiptip, on behalf of delegation of Lamu, I vote no.
Madzaya Stifat Mwachiru.
On behalf of Kilifi County, as a delegation, I vote no.
Mahmoud Mohammed Maalim. On behalf of Mandera County, I vote no. Malala Cleophas Wahungu.
Mr. Speaker, for purposes of Mulembe unity, Kakamega County stands with Vihiga and votes no.
Mbito Michael Malinga. Mbito Michael Malinga. Mbito Michael Malina.
On behalf of the people of Trans Nzoia County, Michael Mbito votes yes.
Mbogo George Ochilo Ayako.
I, Dr. George Mbogo Ochilo Ayako, Senator for Migori County, for the love of my brothers and sisters, I vote yes.
Mogeni Eric Okono.
You also don't love.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Omogusi Nation, I vote no.
Moi Gideon Kipsilei Toet.
I vote yes.
Mpaye Philip Selau.
On behalf of Kajiado delegation, I vote no.
Murkomen Onesimus Kipchumba.
For the unity of the nation and to provide an opportunity to get a uniting formula, I, Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen, I vote no.
Mutula Kilonzo Jr. Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
I, Mutula Kilonzo Jr., son of Makueni, on behalf of Makueni delegation, and for the unity of Kenya, I vote no.
Mwangi Paul Gidiomi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of the great county of Nyandarua, I, Mwangi Paul Gidiomi, vote yes.
Mwaruma Jones Mwashushe.
Mr. Speaker, sir, for the sake of unity of Kenya, I, Senator Jones Mwashushe Mwaruma, Senator for the great people of Taita Taveta, I vote no.
Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki.
Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa niaba ya County 001 na mimi Mohamed Faki Mwinyi Haji, mtumishi na senator wa County 001, kwa niaba ya watu wa 001 na niaba yangu binafsi, ninasema emphatic no.
Nderitu John Kinywa.
I, John Kenyua, Senator of Laikipia, with clear instructions from people of Laikipia, I vote yes.
Ndwiga Peter Njeru. Ndwiga Peter Njeru.
I, Gerald Drigger, on behalf of Embu County, vote emphatically yes.
Olekina Ledama.
I, Ledama Olekina, the son of the Maasai Nation, on behalf of the Narok delegation, vote no.
Yes. Ongeri Samson Kigengo. Ongeri Samson Kigengo.
On behalf of KC delegation, and I really want this nation to be together. And in order to have another chance to discuss it, I vote no.
Outa Frederick Otieno.
On behalf of the great county of Kisumu, I, Frederick Otieno Uta, I vote yes.
Ogisho Samuel Losron. Pugisho Samuel Losron.
You did not call me.
Yeah, I'll call you next. I think because of this.
Yeah.
Arthur. Sakaja Johnson Arthur.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
I, Johnson,
Yes.
Arthur, Sakaja, CBS. On behalf of the people of Nairobi and the 43 communities I represent, for the sake of the unity of this country and for posterity, I vote no.
Wako Amos Sitwila.
Who is next? Next is who?
Wako Amos Sitwila.
Mulembe Nelson. VPI chairman. VPI chairman.
I, Sitwila, Amos, Wako, Sidungumuliro, Eugene Amos Rayadon, for the deep love I have of my people of Busia, and for them having voted me to come to the Senate. I vote yes.
Wambua Enoch Kio.
Observe social distancing. Observe social distancing, please.
I, Enoch Kio Wambua, for and on behalf of the great people of Kitui County, and for the unity of this country, I vote no.
Wario Golich Juma.
I, Mr. Speaker, sir, I, Golish Juma Wario, son of herdsman, representing the great people of Tana River County, vote no.
Wetangula Moses Masika. Wetangula Moses Masika.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Zungusha. Sana. Alafu nitakuona zungusha. Alafu nitakuona
Order. Senator Orengo and Bogisho.
Senator Pogisho Samuel Losuron.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the people of West Pokot and on behalf of the Kenyan people, I vote yes.
Senator Orengo James.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Order. Take your seats. Order, take your seats. Order. Senators, take your seats. Take your seats. Take your seats. Okay, take your seats, honorable senators. Order, senators. The results of the voting are as follows. Yes. Abstentions, 0. Yes. The noes, 25. Yes. The ayes, 22. So which means the noes have it. Therefore, we will resume debate on the main motion. Wait. Once I'm making that announcement, knowing that there are amendments that have been suggested by 3 members, so the amendments will then be moved by one of them because they are similar. So, but we are going back to the original debate first. Okay, let's proceed. Senator Sakaja.
Hey, relax. Relax, members. Mr. Speaker, before I move, he'll withdraw. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the amendment. I'm just opening it. And I want to persuade my colleagues, Senator Mutula, Kilonzo Jr., as well as Senator Ledama, to withdraw their amendments. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following amendment, that the motion be amended by deleting the full stop at the end and inserting the following words. Subject to the deletion of recommendation appearing as paragraph 26 of the report, and substituting it, therefore, the following new recommendation. 26, the Senate resolves that pursuant to Article 217 of the Constitution, the third basis for sharing revenue among counties for the financial year 2020-2021 to 2024-2025 be as indicated in the order paper. And Mr. Speaker, I'll just mention 2 components of it because the amendment is pretty straightforward. Mr. Speaker, the import of the amendment is that because in the previous financial year and in this current financial year, the amount of equitable share going to the counties has remained at 316.5 billion. Mr. Speaker, everybody who spoke, including Senator Kangata, the leader of majority, the leader of minority earlier, held that when they were pushing the earlier amendment, they held that the basic principle that we all agree upon as a Senate is that no county should lose a shilling of its allocation. And Mr. Speaker, the formula then kicks in once we've devolved enough money to go to the counties, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker,
Senators who are standing, please find where to sit because it's you are.
So, Mr. Speaker, the formula is that for any amount of 316.5 billion and below, the allocations shall be as per the 2019-2020 allocations to counties, and that doesn't change. If your county had 8 billion, you'll have a minimum of 8 billion. If your county had 10 billion, you'll have a minimum of 10 billion. Any amount above that, Mr. Speaker, will then be applied based on the formula. Mr. Speaker, the reason for doing this, because we've had to think as Kenyans. We've had to make very painful decisions, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm the senator for Nairobi. And in the previous proposal by the committee, Nairobi was going to gain 100 million, which is 0.6% of our allocation. 100 million in Nairobi is not the same as 100 million in Garissa or Turkana or Wajir, or even Tharaka Nithi, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, what would it benefit the people of Nairobi? And many of the 4.3 million people I represent also come from other counties. For us to gain 0.6% and have our colleagues lose 30% of their budget, 25% of their budget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it will not be right, it will not be patriotic. Devolution is about this country. The Building Bridges initiative, and I speak this because I know where the heart of the president is. Yes. I know where the heart of the former prime minister is. We cannot have cohesion without equalization of opportunities. Mr. Speaker, a child in Mandera must have the same shot at life as a child in Makueni. There is no Kenya A and Kenya B. And the notion that we've been having, Mr. Speaker, over the past few weeks, that there are certain parts of the country that have been giving to other parts of the country is a fallacy, and I am going to demonstrate it, Mr. Speaker. I am going to demonstrate it. Because to this country, one indivisible nation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if I go a bit to the formula which came, and I want to make it clear, because Kenyans must know and we must debunk some of the myths that have been peddled. Number one, there was no CRA proposal before the House today. Yes. It was not the CRA formula. Yes. It was a formula originally CRA amended by the committee. So no one has rejected the CRA formula. Number two, Mr. Speaker, and on this I need to be very clear and I will demonstrate. 1 man, 1 shilling, as a principle, the biggest beneficiary would be Nairobi. But there is no single proposal that has been brought to this House that is 1 man, 1 shilling. Mr. Speaker, if it was 1 man, 1 shilling, Nairobi should be getting 29.8 billion. 29.8 billion. And we're only getting 15. Mr. Speaker, urban poverty many times burns more than rural poverty. The people in Mathare, the people in Kibera, if you do not have money, Mr. Speaker, you cannot get a place to stay, you will not get food. So this notion that people are being told that there is a 1 man, 1 shilling formula is not true. And I'll demonstrate further, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a county like Kirinyaga, because 1 man, 1 shilling means that the population of your county divided by the population of the country multiplied by 316.5 billion. A county like Kirinyaga, because people have been peddling a rumor that there are certain parts that are being treated unfairly because of not having 1 man, 1 shilling. According to 1 man, 1 shilling, Kirinyaga, that has a population of 610,000 people, should be getting 4 billion. What did it get before, and in what I'm proposing, 5.3 billion and 4.2 billion, above 1 man, 1 shilling. Mr. Speaker, Laikipia County, with a population of 518,000, if it is 1 man, 1 shilling, Laikipia should be getting 3.4 billion. But what is Laikipia getting, Mr. Speaker? 4 billion in the first proposal and 5 billion in the second proposal. So do you want 1 man, 1 shilling to reduce Laikipia? To reduce Kirinyaga? Mr. Speaker, let me show you Nyeri County, because the senator is here. You have a population of 759,000 people. When you say 1 man, 1 shilling was going to support you, because you've been receiving, as Nyeri, 5 billion, or rather 5.4 billion, and the new proposal is 6 billion. That's what you're getting. If it's 1 man, 1 shilling, Senator Ephraim, you will receive 5 billion flat, a billion less. This notion, you know, we must demystify. If it was 1 man, 1 shilling, Kiambu should be getting 16 billion. They're getting 10. It is good for us to disabuse this notion, because people are out there fighting us, saying that we do not support the agenda of the president. That is not true. That is conjecture and warped logic, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me give you the last example.
Point of order, Senator.
The last example, Mr. Speaker.
There is a point of order.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My point of order is whether the Senator for Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, is in order to offer the misleading explanation he's giving about the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling concept. Because, Mr. Speaker, when that concept has been advanced by the people of Mount Kenya, and he has mentioned Kiambu, which I represent, it is a progressive agenda, Mr. Speaker. It is an agenda that we've picked as the starting point being now. And we have been very loud and clear, Mr. Speaker, that even as today, even if this formula was to pass the way it was, and Kiambu got the allocation it was going to get, being called a gainer, each person in Kiambu, as per capita allocation to each individual, Mr. Speaker, would have been 4,700 when there are counties still in the same formula, for example, like Tana River and Lamu, who will be receiving 21,000 shillings, others 19,000 shillings, Mr. Speaker. So the the senator for Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, is out of order because he has not first understood the concept and the mission of the one man, one vote, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, let me just leave that because it's not about understanding the concept. Mr. Speaker, in the Republic of Kenya, I'm the first person to write on fiscal decentralization more than 10 years ago. I understand this formula very well. And the examples I'm giving are for illustrative purposes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, lastly, and I was going to give you a different county, Tharaka Nithi County, for instance, or even leave Tharaka Nithi. Let's go to Siaya County. With 900,000 people, Senator Orengo's county, you're supposed, if it's 1 month, to get 6.6 billion, and you're at 6.7. So, Mr. Speaker, these discrepancies are there. In per capita, and the point I'm making is this. In the initial formula, Mr. Speaker, the highest per capita allocation was going to Lamu at 27,000, and the lowest Nairobi at 3,300 thereabout. Even in this formula, by the committee, the highest per capita was still 21,000 and 3,500. So the point is, if both formulas are not addressing 1 man, 1 shilling, if both formulas are not reducing the per capita discrepancy, why should you go with a formula that is hurting counties over here, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, that is political suicide for these members. And I gave an example. If tomorrow, Senator Cherargei or Senator Lelegwe goes to his county, having lost 200 million shillings, Mr. Speaker, 500 million shillings, Mr. Speaker, and the governor says, you know, in this budget, I wanted to give you people bursary of 500 million, but because it is not there, go and find it from your senator. What does it gain us to benefit 2% while he is losing all of that percentage, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I want to move on to part of the variables in that formula, which I found completely wrong. And allow me to talk about my county. Mr. Speaker, number 1, when you talk about health, that the variable of health is measuring how many people visit hospitals. What do you do to the counties that don't have hospitals to be visited in the first place? Because that county will never ever rate anywhere on that health variable. So you cannot use the number of outpatient visits to measure who needs hospitals. You need to see how many hospitals exist in those counties per person, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at a variable like poverty index, and I've spoken about this repeatedly for the last 10 years, poverty index is a measure of darkness. World over, we've moved from poverty index and we use what we call human development index, which tells you the access to the actual facilities for which we are devolving funds, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in India, they even have something they call provincial GDP as a key variable to help some of the counties or the states, the provinces that are producing, to also be encouraged to produce more. So that is how we should have gone, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want the people of Nairobi to hear me very clearly. In the agriculture variable, Mr. Speaker, Nairobi has been given nothing because of the notion that there is no agriculture in Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, the allocation we've gotten is 40 million. In Nairobi, Westlands constituency, if you go to Dagoretti South constituency, Mr. Speaker, Udhiru, Rudhimitu, Mutuini, Waivaka, they do more agriculture than some counties combined. If you go to Njiru and Ruai in Kasarani constituency, if you go to Karen, Mr. Speaker, there is agriculture. This formula had such a myopic view of agriculture because agriculture is end-to-end. The biggest market for agriculture is Nairobi. But when you give us 40 million shillings, yet all the livestock from Northeastern is coming to Nairobi. All your foodstuffs are coming to Wakulima. We're talking about Kiamaiko market. We're talking about Dagoretti market, Mr. Speaker. Are you saying then that there is no agriculture going on in Nairobi? That is voodoo variables, Mr. Speaker. And you must never have a formula that advocates for such voodoo variables, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we invest in storage in Nairobi as agriculture, it reduces, and there are studies that have been done, post-harvest losses across the country by 80%. We need to have a better view of what fiscal transfer is, Mr. Speaker, to counties. Mr. Speaker, Nairobi County does 15,000 extension service visits every year, and you're giving us 40 million shillings. So all in all, Mr. Speaker, a lot of those variables were not objective. We were not able as a Senate to go through how whoever came up with the statistics came up with them. And I believe the day I see the formula, the real 1 man, 1 shilling, because it has not been in this house. The day I see it and Nairobi is getting 30 billion, that is the one we'll support. But for now, Mr. Speaker, for the sake of this country, for the sake of this country, Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow any part of Kenya to be left behind, Mr. Speaker. We cannot allow any part of Kenya to feel less Kenyan than the other, Mr. Speaker. The narrative that certain parts were gaining are not, and that is why we're wearing the Kenyan ties today. Because you have said it's Team Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I would rather not get that 100 and defer my gratification to the day Nairobi will get the 15 billion extra it deserves, but save 19, 20 other counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we know the CBA negotiations. I'm the chairman of Labour Committee. Counties will have to start paying higher salaries for doctors, but you're reducing their money, Mr. Speaker. During COVID, Mr. Speaker, I know very well, and I've sat with the Parliamentary Budget Office, an office which you do not give enough credit. And they have told us, honestly, in the next financial year, it will be foolhardy to imagine that we will go above 316.5 billion. The money is not there. The revenue is not collected. And you know this false narrative that some counties get a lot of money. You give Nairobi 15.8 billion, Mr. Speaker. Our payroll in a year is 18 billion. It's more than the 15. In this past financial year, we've raised only 8 billion shillings. On, operation and maintenance in Nairobi alone is close to 5 billion. So a county of 4.3 million people, 17 constituencies, 85 wards, has less than 5 billion for development, with the depth of the poverty in Nairobi. Until we get to a place where we're devolving 400 billion, 500 billion, nobody can say that any part of this country is getting money that it does not deserve. And that is devolution. That is a true BBI. That is a true position of our party leadership, Mr. Speaker. And because of that, Mr. Speaker, I wish to urge members. I want to urge colleagues. Because even in 3 years, in 2 years, when the money goes up, with 2/3 we can come back to this house and amend this formula. But for now, let us be our brother's keepers. Let us be our brother's keepers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's nothing. The Bible says, for what does it benefit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? What will it benefit you to gain 50 million for your county and lose the unity of this country, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, until we get to that level where everybody, and truly we've costed functions, everybody talks about dividing the pie. That is what we're doing here today, Mr. Speaker. But no one is talking about how we bake a bigger pie for this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have a commission of revenue allocation. We will soon need a commission of revenue generation in this country. Because, Mr. Speaker, we must start thinking of how to increase revenue, on-source revenue in counties. We must stop this issue of each governor having his own system, his own IT system, because that is where the corruption is. And as a Senate, we must make sure that the monies that we're giving to counties, Mr. Speaker, are utilized properly. Mr. Speaker. I heard people saying that governors in certain parts of the country are the ones stealing. That is an unfair assessment. Everybody is stealing across the country, and we need to condemn it in full. We cannot say that certain parts of the country is where theft is, and in our own backyards, there's theft. There's been theft in Nairobi. There's been theft. In fact, most of the impeachments have come from Central. There's been theft in Nyanza. There's been theft in the coast, Mr. Speaker. Let us remember we have one indivisible country, Mr. Speaker. I know members want to vote quickly because the mood in the House is palpable. In the words of Gideon, the die is cast. Alea iacta est. And I want to tell senators, please vote with your conscience. I want to assure members that this vote is not a vote against the government, because I support this government. I was a founding chairman of TNA. Mr. Speaker, when the formula first came to this house, Senator Wetangula was in the other house. It was brought by the finance minister. The finance minister then was President Uhuru Kenyatta. The president was Mwai Kibaki. That first formula was brought, and I can tell you in his heart of hearts, the president supports devolution, and the president will never push an agenda that pits one part of Kenya against the other. So members here should stop. Members here should stop fear-mongering and telling us to meitwa. We've been called. There's no such thing. He would have told me himself. This is in support of his agenda. Building bridges, uniting Kenya, from Habaswein to Vanga. From Turkana, Mr. Speaker, to Lamu. From Kisumu to Nyeri. One Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I move. And I ask Senator Ledama to second.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to second the motion to amend the committee report. Mr. Speaker, sir, for the following reasons. One, and I'll be very brief to the point, because the distinguished senator of Nairobi County has completely demystified the myth. Mr. Speaker, sir, the reason why I support this amendment is because of one. It is ill and it is illegal for a county like Turkana, which is over Marsabit, which is over 70,000 square kilometers, to be reduced into a square root of 266. And in that parameter alone, that county loses 1.5 billion shillings. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is evil. We must be our brother's keepers. When I came into this house, I said I'm proud to be in this house because this is indeed the House of Union. And if we're the House of Union, it will be wrong for one county to gain, yet
let's consult the
senators,
senators,
just on the land parameter alone, will lose 1.4 billion shillings. Mr. Speaker, sir, the second reason why I support the amendment by Senator Sakaja is because of the way that the committee played around.
Let's consult in low tones.
In terms of
observe social distancing, please,
health.
senators. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, sir, when you come and lie to the public that you have the CRA formula, and you are now playing around with figures, you amend it, and you raise it, and you give it a weight of 20%. You take 3 counties, take all the money. That is Kirinyaga, Kakamega, and Bungoma. Mr. Speaker, sir, it would have been a different story if we would have even stuck with the issue of CRA. And that is why you saw in this amendment, we focused, the weight that we gave was the 17% on health, because it was well reasoned, advised by the Abuja Declaration. Mr. Speaker, sir, the third point, which is the last point for me to allow members to vote, is on the issue of agriculture. The committee played with the weight, and they raised it to 12%. When they did that, they took away money from urban centers like Nairobi and Mombasa, which benefit from the urban parameter. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the unity of this nation, I want to see Narok County receiving 8 billion, which they received last year, for the next few years until the time that we can be able to generate more money. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to see the county of Kirinyaga getting what they got this year, which is the actual figure of 4.2 billion. I want to see the county of Lamu getting at a minimum the amount of money that they received this year, which was 2.5 billion. Mr. Speaker, sir, Madam Speaker, sir, Article 203 of the Constitution is very clear. When we are dividing revenue, we must take certain factors into consideration. Our counties, the marginalized counties, have been marginalized for way too long. We cannot be the house that continues to kill devolution. We must stand with our people, all the way from Turkana to Rombo in Kajiado. So, Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, because I know the time is going on, I second.
Order, members. Order, members. You cannot tell me to put a question to something that has not even been proposed. So let's do things in order. This is a house of order. Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that the motion be amended as moved by Senator Sakaja and captured in the order paper. Senator Mwaura Isaac.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to oppose this motion by my very able and distinguished senator, who we were nominated together in the National Assembly, Senator Johnson Ada Sakaja. Madam Speaker, there has been a lot of contestations as to why we are debating this bill. And Madam Speaker, when you look at the history of this country, the making of Kenya as a nation was for extractive purposes by the colonialists. And indeed, they were able to expropriate a lot of resources to the Crown in London. Madam Speaker, upon independence, with the advent of Kanu and Kadu, there was actually a big debate about whether you should give monies at the center or to the Majimbo system. And Madam Speaker, it is on record that when Majimbo systems were told to generate their own resources, they were not able to do so. Julius Kambarage Nyerere is on record as having said that there is actually a big challenge of having only one center, because if you make the mistake at the center, it affects the whole country. And so therefore, there is actually a clear case to justify why you should have many centers, hence the advent of our counties. But Madam Speaker, it is true that the sessional paper number 10 of 1965 may have abrogated and allocated resources to where the rail had passed. And indeed, the 2010 Constitution provided for counties. But Madam Speaker...
Honorable Senators, order. You are crowding the dispatch box, and I can see a point of order.
Okay. Madam Speaker, I'm afraid that there is a technicality which is going to put us in an awkward position. We had asked the substantive speaker to make a ruling about the time. It's 10 minutes to 9 o'clock. And we are not going to postpone this one. We had better be arrested. The police had better be outside to arrest us. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, so the ruling we want from you.
Order, Senator Mutula.
Yes.
Why are you prescribing while you are on a point of order?
Yes, I'm just on a point of order.
You are on a point of order, but
yes,
you cannot prescribe again to the speaker how you are going to be arrested.
Yes.
So we are saying
on a point of order.
You have made your point. You have made your point. I see another point of order from Senator Langat. Senator Langat.
Madam Speaker, I don't know why. Senator from, I don't know why my friend, Senator, he's Senator Kilonzo Jr. I don't know why he's anticipating that we are going beyond time and therefore telling us actually that we should hurry everything. We want to ventilate on this thing, give us enough time so that we discuss, and we want to know more about it. So, Madam Speaker, when it gets to the time whereby it's against the protocols of the health, we have no problem, we shall stop there and then continue later. Yes, we must follow the protocols. We must follow. We are risking the life of others. We are risking the lives of others.
Senator Wambua. Point of order from Senator Wambua.
Madam Speaker, the matter raised by Senator of Makueni on a point of order is an important matter, Madam Speaker. And what he was asking for was a determination as promised by the Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, the matter was brought up, and the question was that we needed to extend the time of sitting until such a time we complete this debate. And the Speaker was supposed to make a ruling on that matter, Madam Speaker.
Point of order from Senator Gerard Gay.
Madam Speaker, I think it is good to be honest. When the President issued protocols of COVID, no, you can't shout me down, you can't shout me down. Can I speak? No, this is not a marketplace, you cannot shout. It is very clear, Madam Speaker. Madams, we are leaders. Order. Speaking to me. Madam Speaker.
Senators. Order.
Madam Speaker.
Order, senators. Please take your seats. Order, senators. Surely we are a house of order. He has requested me to make a ruling, but I have seen 6 points of order. So I'm allowing you, Senator Mutula. Senator Mutula, you cannot say we make a ruling on yours when other members have a right also. So let's allow other members to make their points of order. I can promise you. Order members. I want to promise you that I'm going to make a ruling. Senator Gerard Gay, can we listen to one another, please? Honorable senators, allow Gerard Gay to speak, and let's allow each one of us to speak.
Yes.
I'll make the ruling. Yes.
On a point of order, Madam Speaker, we have agreed that COVID-19 is a serious pandemic. The President issued protocols. He said he was very emphatic that the curfew time is 9 p.m. and no one should be exempted. In fact, he said, I'm Wishimiwa. Therefore, we must follow the health protocols. We can't be leaders, Madam Speaker, we can't be leaders and breaking the same rules. Which leadership are we showing the country? Madam Speaker, if it reaches 9, the curfew starts, we must go home. That is my concern, Madam Speaker.
Honorable senators, Honorable senators, order. Honorable senators, I have 15 members who want to contribute to this motion. That is their right. I have, again, 6 new members who want to do points of order. This is our house of order. Tomorrow is another day. I don't want us to really abuse the process of this house. Let us respect the process of the house. Let us allow those who have points of order, because if you give your point of order and then you want us to skip another member, it is not fair. I only managed to propose the question, and the first member was interrupted with. So nobody has even contributed towards that motion. It's only the mover and the seconder. So I want to have a feel of what the point of orders are coming from. Matsayo, Stewart, Mwachiro, and then I'll come back. I'll come.
Asante Bispika. Asante Bispika. Bispika, nasema kwamba sisi nakusikia Kang'ata. Bispika, Nitetee Bispika. Bispika, nataka kusema ya kwamba sisi tukiwa watumishi wa kaunti zetu ambazo wametuleta hapa kwa kikazi, hatukuja hapa kama watu ambao hawako kazini. Tuko kazini. Sisi ni wale wafanyikazi maalum, essential workers. Kwa hiyo mimi nasema ya kwamba Bispika, hoja hii ni hoja ya nidhamu. Ni muhimu wewe Bispika uongeze wakati wa sisi kujadiliana mjadala huu ambao ni muhimu sana katika maisha ya Kenya.
Point taken.
Asante.
Point taken. Senator Murkomen, on a point of order.
Madam Speaker, the issue before you, to me, is very simple. There is a motion that was passed by this House after proposed by Senator George Kaniri. It was passed that the Senate will only adjourn if the business in the order paper is completed. If any person, let me just conclude. If any person is desirous of cutting the time of debate, they know the standing orders that will go. If any person is questioning the legal framework that governs our stay here, it's the standing orders that govern. And I want to say this, Madam Speaker. Let us not, because we are losing a debate, let us not try to cut short the procedures of this House, because today, like I have been, you are either on this side today or the other this side. So stick with the standing orders.
Senator Murkomen, please, don't go that direction. Senator Kiika Susan.
Madam Speaker, I am quite, on a point of order, I'm quite surprised that the previous senators who are talking about our standing orders taking precedent as to how long we can stay here, while we are all very aware that the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, directed that not even waheshimiwas are above the law. So at 9 o'clock, Madam Speaker, the Senate needs to shut down. Tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is another day.
The last point of order is from Alake Abshiro. Then I will rule.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I don't know what this debate is about, Madam Speaker. If lateness is what we're talking about, we're already late. So, Madam Speaker, and Madam Speaker, as well, what we have said is this. The orders that are imposing on us the 9 o'clock curfew is actually, Madam Speaker, we're already late. I think this House should complete what it's supposed to be doing today, and I think the issue has been overtaken by events, and therefore, let's continue. Do not run away because you're sensing defeat.
Honorable Senators, I'm going to make a ruling. Honorable Senators, I thought we had become very orderly and very serious, and the country is watching. Can you take a seat, Senator Mugeni and Senator Kachwang? Senator Mo, yes. Senator. Honorable Senator, yes. Senator, come and take a seat. Honorable Senators, this is a discussion that has been with us for a very long time. This is a discussion that has come, is it 6 times, as a member say? Yes. and it has been thrown out. You cannot blame anybody except the senators themselves. So we need to blame ourselves first, instead of creating a crisis out of a situation that we could have saved. I want to appeal to you, senators. The number of senators I have here who want to contribute to this motion are 12 now. The amendment that we made, the first amendment that we had, we allowed 3 hours. We were extremely fair to Kangata's amendment. It would be extremely unfair not to give the amendment of Sakaja the right time. So we need another 3 hours. So that is number one. I have ignored the 6 points of order. Honorable senators, are we going to be the Senate that does not obey the laws of the land? I am asking you this. Senators, order senators, order senators, order senators, senators, order, order, order. Honorable senators, allow me to make the ruling. Why are you telling me to put a question before I even make the ruling? The only member who almost started contributing was interfered with points of order. And he was not able even to contribute. We don't even know who is supporting and who is not supporting. The importance of debate, senators, the importance of debate is even to sway the minds of people, those who are on the borderline. So you cannot, we cannot, senators, we cannot, and I'll tell you this one standing here, we cannot purport to be fair to Sakaja's motion when we gave Kangata 3 hours and we are giving Sakaja 1 minute. Honorable senators, this motion is in the House, so it is not him who is supposed to complain or not to complain. It's us. This is our property. Honorable senators, going by what Senator Susan Giga and a few others have said, it is now 9:05. It is time to interrupt the business